Good. All right. How are you?
Fantastic.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. I last you're gonna die.
Oh, what
I'm
happened?
going. I'm going to sleep last night, right? And I'm thinking about our interview today, and I'm thinking about what I've told you. You know, I know nobody. Me, everything I've gone through in the SEAL teams, everything I've ever gone through. Nobody I know of has come back from what you've come back from. Okay, nobody,
Okay.
and to go from where you were to where you got to, winning and then now where you're at, right? And then I'm thinking about, like when you had your, they had to replace your screws came out, right?
Right.
And the thought in my head was like, you give when somebody says somebody has a screw loose a whole new meaning. I couldn't get that out of my head all night.
Wow. I almost choked on my water there. Yep. You're right. You're right. I literally have a few screws loose. You're right. You know what? I'm gonna have to use that. Okay.
Oh, you have my permission. You have my permission. That's
Thank you.
hilarious.
Thank you.
Oh, I mean, I was in my mind all. I fell asleep with that thought in my head last
Perfect.
night.
Perfect.
Oh, okay. So if people don't know your story, just summarize from 2019 until where we're at.
So I am Luisa Montalvo. I'm from the Rio Grande Valley in Texas, which is South Texas. We're 10 minutes from the Mexican border. Born and raised here, and joined Toastmasters International, which is a nonprofit organization for people that want to be able to speak and present better. Also, they have leadership paths, which is what a lot of people are joining uh, the industry now, looking for guidance with that. So in Toastmasters International, I joined because I love to compete. That's all I wanted to do was compete. So so I competed, and for 7 straight years I kept losing at the district level. And if you don't get past the district level, you're done. So you just try again the next year. And the reason I was wanting to go past the district level is because then you have the quarterfinals, the semifinals, the finals, and then you're on the world stage with 7 other contestants trying to be crowned as the best world speaker worldwide, global. This is 150 countries involved with 30,000 participants. So in 2019, I compete. I get advice from my mentor who told me, have fun, don't worry about everything else, just relax. I finally did that. I had fun, I relaxed, and I placed second in the world. And then it took me 5 more years of me trying to compete, coming back. And in 2024, amongst other things that had happened to me, such as a really bad car accident on my transport of homeless dogs to New Jersey. I was dealing with that. I was dealing with the loss of my life partner of 24 years. And then 6 weeks before the contest, my mother passes away, she was probably the main reason I was wanting to do this and see if I could solidify first place, was so she could be proud of me. So I get on stage in 2024, and against all odds, I take home first place, number one in the world, which has been a whirlwind of emotions and just so many amazing things. I've been able to travel the world speaking in different districts for Toastmasters International. And it's just been phenomenal. And along with all that, still trying to get to the gym, work on my exercises, try to walk. And I'm so very close, but it's been over 4 years since the last time I've walked. So that's my journey in a nutshell.
Okay, well, it's like you give like resilience a whole new meaning, right? It's amazing. So this couple days ago, I, I I was doing some marketing, and
Okay.
I go on to my AI, and it finds a couple events going on. One was on a Friday, one was on a Saturday, and it's this place. It says the community fair at the Albridge. So my market is, ages 25 to 45. They're married, got kids, own a house with a mortgage, right? So I'm thinking community fair. There's going to be like kids and families and, different booths, like whatever. Well, it wasn't that at all. It was a senior living facility for Alzheimer's patients or people with dementia. And I walk in and I'm the only man. It's all these hospice nurses and in-home care providers, right? Right. And so this one lady, she had she's from South Africa, and she she had residency in Australia and Great Britain and the United States. Crazy, right? And she had like 3 kids, married, divorced more than once. And she's like, just nails me down. So give me your pitch. I'm like, all right, here we go. Right. And so we stayed in touch. Right. And so I just encouraged her to take advantage of, she hadn't started her 401k on her job.
Okay.
So I'm like, after. So she finally did it. We met for coffee, and I helped her set up her asset allocation. I don't make any money for this at all. Okay. And she had a match of like, up to 7% of her,
Right.
of her income. And so with the match at age, trying to get her to $1 million, right? And with the match, 5%, by age 73, she's close. Okay. She would have to like another $1,100 a month, and she would actually hit that goal. Really talented person, musically inclined, very artsy. She can cook, all these things, right? But she hasn't ever focused on her own welfare, she's always just been focused on other people, right? That's why she's in the job that she is, right?
Right.
But now I'm like, this is like, and she's 47. Okay. And then I'm thinking about, it's easy for me to show somebody who's, 22-year-old just getting out of a trade school, HVAC, automotive, welding school, whatever. They're making, the 60 grand a year. They got their own place. They got a car. They got, they got their phone. They got food in the fridge. They got cable, whatever. And they have enough discretionary where they could afford to put away $650 a month, which would get them to $1 million by the time they're 57. Showed more. But when somebody's a little older, it's
harder.
It's harder, right? And so that's where I started focusing on the synergistic business strategy. That's taking that same knowledge base and for multiple industries. Just an example, there's a welding trade school here in Houston that teaches underwater welding. There's only 1 of 3 in the country. There's one in Washington State, one here, and they're teaching them. They're getting them certified with the FAA Part 107 license to operate the underwater drones. And with that same license, they can get a DJI Phantom or Mini, and they could, let's say they get a contract for maintain an oil and gas pipeline. They can fly the drone, find the damage, get their cutting torch and welder out and or a water tower, whatever, right? And they're going to get paid for both, right? An HVAC technician, like my son does, they can get certified to do home inspections for real estate and significantly boost their income with that same knowledge base that they have. Okay, and there's in the hair business, somebody could get certified as a wig maker, And actually, the health insurance companies will refer them business for people who have alopecia or gone through chemo and radiation, because the insurance companies pay for those prosthetic wigs. They're like $800 a pop on the low end, and the profit's like $700 per, significantly increase their income. So, those are the kind of things that I do for people. And then also people that are, this is wild. So if you're older and you've had health issues, like, chronic, maybe you've had cancer or you've had a heart attack or whatever, right? It's the cost of insurance and the kind of insurance you can get is more difficult. And the advantage for the insurance is the tax advantage. It goes tax deferred. It's a tax advantage when you take it out. But if you're a small business owner, okay, you can get insurance on employees. Do you ever wonder why there's so many young, good-looking people that work at the bank?
No, it's been ages that I've stepped into a bank, but okay.
Well, it's because the banks look for young, healthy people that they can hire, and they buy life insurance on them. The bank owns the policy. They have assets growing, and I didn't learn this until about 4 years ago. But banks own more life insurance policies than, like, it's crazy amount, because they're putting that money in for the tax advantages.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Right.
Huh.
And so that's why they're always hiring these young people, right? And so they're healthy. And so they get a benefit. They're going to give them, as a employee benefit, a death benefit from those policies. But the cash value owned in those policies are owned by the bank. And it's growing for the bank. So somebody that's, if you're incorporated, the only way you can insure somebody else other than yourself or a family member living in your house is if they're an employee.
Really?
Right.
Like, I can't take a policy out on my cousin?
Not unless they're living with you.
I didn't know that.
Okay. But if you employ them, you can.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Well, that's what I'm here. That's what I do in this show, right? I'm a member of the Christian Entrepreneur Club.
Okay.
And these people, they're doing all kinds of stuff, right? I mean, it's but a lot of them, they're part of it for the fellowship, right? Or they may be looking for a referral for whatever their services or whatever widget they're selling, right? But there's things that they could do. There's certain types of businesses that fit really well together.
Okay.
Okay. Like, for example, contractors and real estate agents. Okay. It's kind of a natural fit there, right?
Right.
Construction contractors,
Right.
right? There's, and this is really odd. I started getting all kinds of business when I was in the mortgage business. I got tons of business coming at me for construction. I'm like, where are these coming from? Well, my hobby was shooting. I was the range master at the South Bay Rod and Gun Club. And, I know how to, I'm an ex-Navy SEAL. I can shoot pretty good. When you see me shoot the bullseye out of the target with my right hand and do it again with my left hand, you get an idea. I know what I'm doing. And, well, all these other people that were at the range were either civil engineers, land surveyors, general contractors, or people that work for general contractors. That's where my business was coming from.
Okay.
Okay. And when you do whatever it is you do, whatever is your hobby or whatever that thing is that you excel at, and people see your competence, they overlay that level of competence in everything else that you do. It gives you immediate credibility with your business.
Right.
Okay. Now, you, just because I know you and we've talked, you've got an immense amount of business prowess that most people don't realize, because you don't have a business. You're not a business person. Okay.
Correct.
But you've got amazing knowledge when it comes to that area. Now that you are out there and you're speaking, you're getting paid for speaking. Have you incorporated? Are you incorporated?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
So
Working on it.
this is another hack I'm gonna talk to you about, right?
Okay.
So I have a client who's I talk about him a lot. He's my most successful client. I met him. I switched companies almost 4 years ago. August, it'll be 4 years. Not terrible. And was it 3 years? It was 3 years ago. Okay, I switched companies, and I didn't have an office to go to, so I'm at a coffee shop, and I'm sitting on my computer, and this guy starts talking to me. And when he finds out that I used to be a Navy SEAL, well, his favorite uncle was a Navy SEAL. So we had a rapport like immediately, right? And we exchange information, right? And then he calls me. He goes, "Okay, I started this business." He had these. He has a service where he uses acoustic sensors to detect the cracks in fuel cells. And his primary clients were chemical companies here in Houston. There's a lot of them here, right? Well, he was making about $58,000 a year, and then SpaceX had a rocket blow up on the launch pad because of a cracked fuel cell. And they called him up, and then his income popped to like 1.3 million in 2023. And then that's when I met him, right? And working with him, helping him get started with the 401k and the profit sharing and cash balance strategies, did some key man policies for his employees, did a cash value policy for him, right? Well, 2024, his income was like 1.4 million, but the end of 2024, because of Trump talking about the tariffs, the German company that he bought his sensors from made him their US partner to get around the tariffs. And he was their biggest client anyways.
Okay.
And by sending him the sensors instead of all assembled in two pieces, the mechanism and the cap, as soon as he snaps it together, it's a US manufactured product, right? Well, then his income popped to 2.5 million in 2025, and he's on track to make that amount this year. But his tax liability is like through the roof, right? But I'm showing him by maximizing his contributions into his 401k and then the profit sharing. Because if you're self-employed, you can share the profits, which is almost as much. It's just a little bit, the max contribution into a 401k and the max contribution, the max profit sharing are about the same,
Okay.
And then with the cash balance strategies, I'm actually saving him. He's able to put away like $460,000 a year tax deferred, and it's going to save him $170,000 a year in taxes. Okay. But he's like 57 now. At the age 73, his tax bill is going to be between his mandatory distributions. The government makes you take your money out of those type of policies, and it's tax deferred. So it grows. It qualifies for a tax deduction. You get to write off your contribution in those policies or those programs. it grows tax deferred, so it grows faster. But when you take it out, you got to pay income tax on that money. So
Mhm.
his tax bill at age 73 between 110 and 150,000 a year. But out of the 170,000 I'm saving him, 60,000 we can put into a tax advantaged plan to offset the taxes. He'll get enough tax free income at age 73 to offset the taxes he's going to pay.
Okay.
Okay. And so I'm thinking of you when I'm doing this for him, right? I'm thinking, okay, what can she do? All right. So I would, do you know what it takes to get, register your business?
Are you talking LLC or just regular business getting an EIN number?
Get an EIN number.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So once you do that, okay, now I don't get paid for this, but um, you want to do it is to set. You've ever heard of uh, Gusto? Have you ever heard of Gusto?
I do not believe so. What is it?
So, well, he had one of his employees, one of his key employees, wanted to do a health savings account, and like with all the companies I'm approved with, none of them offered health savings accounts. Then I found out that Wells Fargo, they'll set up an account for you as a health savings account, but you have to have an administrator.
Okay.
And so I'm like, I bet you a payroll administrator company would do that. So I called my client, and he uses Gusto. And sure enough, through Gusto, not only will they set him up with his employees up with a health savings accounts, right? But they also do the 401ks.
Okay.
Okay. So that's like, and it doesn't matter. You could be a sole proprietor and have your own 401k. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And so, so the 401k and the profit sharing, I don't get paid anything on. Okay. But the cash balance strategies, we can, those are things that I can offer. Okay.
Okay.
But combined, it all depends on how old you are, but combined, I think it's like $460,000 a year. If you're making over 600,000 a year, or sorry, 900,000 a year, you can max out on your qualified plans.
Okay.
Okay. So those are, things. So keep that in mind. That's food for thought for you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. The what I was so concerned for you, I saw you right after your accident, and you literally looked like you got hit by a truck. And I call you all the time just because I knew you were there in Maryland by yourself. But every time I called you, you were just so cheerful. And I'm like, what is going on? What is, what, so what was it that you were holding on to? How did you keep seeing that silver lining that kept your attitude the way it was?
That's a great question. I believe I get all of that from my mother. My father was always, I recall one time, my father and I were watching TV, and saw a commercial, and it said, enter our contest now and win a brand new truck. My father says, hey, why don't you call and enter the contest? And I said, Dad, I don't want a truck. And he said, Luisa, enter the contest, win the truck, sell the truck, and then get what you want. Oh my gosh, it was the way he was able to see every situation and turn it into an advantage for yourself. And I believe that, and with the determination my mother had with everything she did, She was always determined to try to be the best at whatever she did. So I am stuck in Maryland. My mom and my brother are here, 2,000 miles away. And I'll have to admit, whatever they were giving me in the very first month of after the accident, I had no cares. I had no cares, no worries, nothing. I
Oh,
didn't even feel any pain during that whole month. That's how good everything was. When I went to rehab a month later there in Baltimore, um, I guess knowing that my mom was in the early stages of Alzheimer's, I my determination for me to get better was to hurry up and get better so that I could come home because I wasn't allowed to fly home because of health issues. So with that, that was what kept me going. I said, okay, I have to make it home to see mom. I have to make it home to see mom. Hang on. Hey, shh. Sorry about that. I have dogs. So with that, that was my whole determining factor on whether I can either sit here and let this define me or I can overcome it. And my choice was to overcome it. And I think that's usually what everything is in life. We have to sit there and decide, do we overcome this or do we let it consume us? What I realized was, it's like I was just talking to a friend of mine. Every time I've tried to either lose weight or start a diet, you you start the diet and you go through first week, second week, and you're doing good and no sugar and working out, and then you decide to give up. Then I realized, okay, so all that suffering I did the last 2, 3, 4 weeks was for nothing then. And to me, that's just wasteful for me. And I thought, okay, so I'm the type of person that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, not waste time in doing something and then giving up. And when another factor is when somebody tells you, you know what, you're not going to be able to do this. We don't think you can do this. For me, that flips a switch. And so I am now determined to prove you wrong. And I believe that's where a lot of the, resilience, tenacity, whatever it is that you want to say it is. For me, that's what triggers me when somebody says, we don't think you can do that, or we don't think this will be something that it would be beneficial for you, or whatever it is, to the negative, I'm going to make it a positive. And that's kind of what kept me going. And like I said, right now I am so close to walking. I can walk, but I've got a really ugly limp. And for me, it's got to be perfection. I don't want anybody to ever know that I was in an accident. So that's what I'm working on now. I recall the first day when the doctor said, well, we're not sure if you're going to make it out of your wheelchair. I said, well, when could I start walking if I know I'm going to make it? He says, anytime you want. And I remember I went to go stand up there in the hospital, and it was like razors on my feet. And I said, oh my gosh, this is going to take forever. And forever has been 4 years, 4.5 years. But it's, you know, if I give up now, if I give up today and say, forget it, I'm sticking in the wheelchair, then all that I went through for the past 4.5 years was for nothing. And I can't let that go. So,
do you still get in the pool?
you know what? I just joined the gym that has the pool, and I was waiting for June and July for it to warm up and get in the pool. But no, I have not gotten in the pool, gosh, in about 6 months, because when I was going through therapy, they had a pool, and I would do the pool once a week.
For
But
somebody
that's
who doesn't swim, right?
right, right,
Right,
exactly,
right.
exactly. So yeah, that's my next step is getting back in the pool. So
Yeah, you know, I had a when I before I was in the SEAL teams, my job was teaching boxing to Navy pilots and their crewmen. And by this time I'd had like 54 amateur fights, and I knew what I was doing. And I'd watch the guys that were getting their face beat in, and I'd go to their corner and I'd tell them what to do. And like 90% of the time, they would do what I told them and turn it around. And I'm thinking, I'm the next best thing since Angelo Dundee. And I told this to my department chief, who was a Navy SEAL Master Chief, Vietnam vet, plank owner at SEAL Team 6. He's listening to me and he goes, the guy that's getting punched in the face has a lot of incentive to do what you're telling him. Right. And when I'm sitting down with somebody or talking to somebody about their finances, people that are aren't in a financial crisis, even though they may not have everything set up, ideally, they're good right now, so they don't have incentive to do anything. Okay, but somebody like this lady recently, or this entrepreneur who's got hit with this tax bill, right? When they start seeing, metaphorically life hitting them in the face, then they pay attention, right? And it causes them to take action. I joke around like, young single guys, there's a part of their brain that doesn't get activated. They're dumb as rocks until they get their significant other. Then they like supercharges. They get this superpower takes effect. And you kind of led a little to, your relationship with your mom, had that was kind of a driver, but was there anything else that really has, kept that fire under you to keep you going?
Actually, another great question, and there's several answers I could give you, but I think the most important one is when I was about 8 or 9 years old, my mother sent me to go live with my grandmother for the summer. And my grandmother worked every day picking whatever crop was in season. And so I'm thinking, wow, I'm going to go spend the summer with grandma. This is going to be fun. Yeah, it was a life lesson, because every day I had to get up at 5 in the morning and we made our lunch. We had breakfast. We got dressed. We waited for the big truck to come pick us up. And for, a good 10 to 12 hours, we were out in the fields picking whatever the season was, whatever the crop was for that season. And I remember talking to my mom the first weekend, and I said, I can't do this. And she says, no, you're going to do this. Because if you ever give up on your education, if you ever give up on not needing a job or whatever, this is where you're going to wind up. And for my grandmother to do that, for all the years she did to provide for my mother, because she was a single parent, and then my mother doing all that she sacrificed, to my father doing all he did to give us everything they gave us, and they gave us a lot. I feel I owe it to them and to my grandmother for all the suffering they went through. The least I could do is be something amazing or someone amazing. And that's, I guess, is my goal, is to say, look, all that work that you put in is kind of like what I was talking about. All that happened before, if I wind up being nothing, then everything they sacrificed for me was for nothing. So I still have to go out there and be great, and I'm trying. So in everything I do, in every action I take, I have that, I guess, instilled in the back of my mind, that I owe it to so many people for where I am. The least I could do is be appreciative and try to go forth and be something that was worth the sacrifice they gave.
Okay, so I'm listening to you, and I know you, and then what you've done already, right? Which is really interesting, because all it really did you achieving that level, you've given yourself a stage
Mhm.
to make a huge difference. You can take what you've gotten. I can't wait for your book, right? And you know,
I can't either.
and and you've uh what okay, going back to me calling you, telling you, trying to guess if you wanted to be on the podcast. Last week you couldn't do it, and I had him in my phone, and I just sent a message to Matthew Ferry, and he came on my podcast. What are the odds of that, right?
Well, yeah.
If you don't know who he is, he's the guy that always, I saw him the first time in 2006, and he was a replacement for the Zig Ziglar,
Oh,
and
okay.
he talked about the drunken monkey. Your subconscious is like a drunken monkey. It's really curious. It was designed to protect us back, when the saber-toothed tiger was roaming the earth, right? But the saber-toothed there's no saber-toothed tigers anymore, so it's got to find it's geared toward to protect us, so it tries to find things to protect us from, and it's really curious, but it's scared of everything. It makes stuff up, right? And the way he describes it, he cons he plays little games, psychological games on himself to get him to achieve and all these kind of things. So he was your replacement, okay, for last week, okay.
Right.
But now I have you, right? And I was telling you that what I've gotten, because I came here to be the director of a voc rehab program for veterans and ex-felons, and started, working on getting them into a trade. And then once they got that baseline employment, what they could do with those skills to make more money, so that they're getting those multiple streams of income, all that kind of stuff, right? But I get resistance. It's like, I'm trying to help you, man, right? And people, but then I get this guy that's, his challenge is a little different. He's making so much money that he's got to pay the IRS a ton of it, right? And you're like, oh, dude, you need to find more of those guys. I'm like,
yes, exactly.
You're right. You're right. I helped a guy. He's got a B&B in Galveston. It was like 300,000 on it, right? And I'm trying to do one of these family banking strategies for him. That's where you open up a whole life policy and you actually overfund it by the amount of the mortgage payment, okay? And you can do all kinds of things. You can either every month borrow, overfund it and then borrow that money out, overfund it by the amount of your debt service and then borrow it out to pay your debt, like your mortgage, or you can let it build. And because I had these numbers memorized, if you had a $338,400 mortgage at 5% interest, your principal and interest payment is $1,886 a month, but only $500 a month goes toward principal.
Right.
But if you run that that's why it takes you 30 years to pay it off. But if you overfund a whole life policy by that amount, you get credit for that whole amount in that policy, right? And when you borrow it out, you still get the guaranteed rate of return on that borrowed money. Okay, it's still in your account. It's a pledge. The money comes from the insurance company, and it's like double collateralized. It's collateralized by the funds in the policy plus your death benefit. There's no bill to pay because when you die, it's just subtracted from the death benefit that goes to your heirs.
Oh, okay.
That's how that works. And you don't pay tax on loan proceeds. That's how that works, right? And well, the sweet spot is between 7 to 10 years to pay off that mortgage. Well, he wanted to do it in 6, right?
Oh, okay.
And so the amount of overfunding he would have to do to get that balance by year 6 to pay that mortgage off, was it was too much, right?
Yep. Mhm.
But guess what? I know, you know, paying your mortgage off in less than 10 years is is still appealing to a lot of people, right?
Mhm. Yes.
And so I have that whole process down. I know what it takes to do that, right? And so it's like, okay, I got to find somebody else who's got a $300,000 mortgage that wants to pay it off early, right? And plus you get that credit. You're building an asset with the same money that you're paying your debt with. Basically your
Right.
money's working for you twice. That's how
Twice.
that works, right? So it's that little bit of like, you know, getting my focus. Yeah, I still have tools to help the person just starting off in their trade, whatever it is, right? But I got the tools to help the wealthy business owners too.
Well, I believe the situation you're running into is people, believe it or not, that live paycheck to paycheck don't think they need financial wisdom. Who are the people that have succeeded and now find themselves in a totally different bracket and different arena? They are the people that are looking for help because they don't want to give up all this hard-earned money that they've made. And
Right. That's a lot of work.
it is right, and I believe that's where your knowledge comes in. So you focusing on one client that really needs your help and wants your help, or you focus on 10 clients and sign all them up with a contract that's going to bring you a tenth of what your one client would bring you. So it would behoove you to go and look for the clients that are now making new money or bigger money and then working with them, because for some reason I guess we now feel that we're okay if we go paycheck to paycheck and we're just going to let faith, put us where we need to be and hope for the best. But people that have gone and strived and worked and made a significant income, now those are the people that would be your best clients because they're looking for you. Other people that are not bringing in all this money are not looking for you. They're trying to live paycheck to paycheck.
Okay, so here's that wisdom that nobody gets from you very often. All right. Now I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking, how she knows so much? But I figured out, if people, it's hard to get somebody to do something they don't want to do.
Hmm.
But now you've made a business doing what you want to do. How have you implemented your business prowess with your speaking business?
Well, right now I'm getting clients that are asking me for their help on their speeches, on competitions. There's a gentleman right now that is competing actually today, and he's competing for $8,000 or $10,000 to be able to start his business, and he's designed an app. And he came to me and said, I don't know what to do. Can you help me? Absolutely. I gave him the 10 best things he could do, and he could walk out of there with 10 grand. And he looked at me and he said, I don't think I can do that. I don't know how to work with somebody that already has their mind made up and says, I don't think I can do that. Okay, well, if you feel that you're in the position to not have to be awarded $10,000, that's you. And I even told him, I said, we as kids we pretended we were, Wonder Woman and Batman and Robin and having all these things for 6 minutes of your speech. Pretend you're the best speaker in the world. and they paid to come and listen to you. And you try to get into somebody's head, and they're either going to say, "Oh my gosh, you're right. I like that." Or they're going to say, "I can't do it," because not everybody can do everything. So recognizing who your clients can be and who your clients will never be is going to determine on whether you're successful, because you have all the knowledge that's going to make other people money. Going out and finding the person that realizes, hey, you need me, that's going to be the trick.
We're gonna have to do another podcast because remember Bridget Krause?
Yes.
Okay, so there would be like an event when she'd be asked to be a speaker, right? And she'd get up and give her pitch and for the John Maxwell, right?
Right.
And she'd talk about, about people not wanting to do something greater than they're doing.
Right.
But, when you're sitting in traffic, she starts talking about these daily mundane challenges that people have, sitting in traffic for 30 minutes on the way to work and on the way home, right? Getting a flat tire, and they don't have enough, and they don't have an emergency fund. They got to put it on their credit card. Now they're further in debt, or they're not not changing their eating habits. They're going to stop off and at McDonald's or Arby's or whatever, right, on the way home, and they don't, they go home and look in the mirror and they see their belly hanging over their belt. She starts going into all these things that start people going, yuck, yeah, that's my life, that sucks, and she's like, now if it gets to that point where you don't want to be in this rut anymore and you want to make a change, let me know. Right? Yeah. And that's how she pulls their mind out of the complacency, right?
Right.
So there's all kinds of little hacks. There's like, I got a fake $100 bill here somewhere.
Okay.
It's $1 million bill.
Okay.
Right here, right? And so this is one of the things I go, if this was real, right, and I'll give it to you, right, but you got to tell me how you're going to spend that money today. Oh. And you get people, their mind starts going, I want to buy this house, right? Okay, let's say that's 300,000 right there, right? Okay, and I want this car. Okay, that's going to be another 50 or 60,000, all right, depending on what kind of car it is, right?
Yep.
And they want to go on a vacation to Europe or the Bahamas or whatever. That's like 10 grand, right? And next thing you know, you're like, you don't have, even with $1 million, you don't have enough, right? And you're never going to have enough unless you want it bad enough.
That's it right there. Some people want it bad enough, and the people that want it bad enough, they're the ones succeeding. It's that easy. The thing is, my dad would always say, a fool and his money are soon parted. I don't care about that. How did the fool get the money? That's what I want to know. And there you have it. People that want it are going to go for it.
My father, who was only lived with him till I was like 7, but he would say, he taught me about good debt and bad debt. Bad debt's like credit card. The payments are so low, the interest is so high, you never pay it off. Good debt would be like a piece of equipment, like a tractor or a combine. Is it smarter to work and save to buy that piece of equipment cash, or would inflation just keep it this far out of his reach? If that was the case, he'd finance that piece of equipment, put it to work to make more money, to pay that loan off faster. He'd say, you got to think of yourself as being in the egg business, and your money's your chickens. You don't want to eat your chickens.
Right.
Okay? Yeah. You want to keep your cash as king. And then Roy Jones Sr., listen, he says, if there's a big, beautiful, delicious apple up in a tree, if you just sit there and wait for it to fall in your hand, you're going to wait a long time. And by the time it does fall in your hand, it's probably, it's going to be all ate up with worms and all dried and shriveled up. You're probably not going to want it anymore. You got to reach up and grab that apple. You got to grab a stick and knock it out of the tree, or climb that tree, or cut that tree down if you want that apple bad enough, right? And here I'm talking to somebody. Like I said, I've been through some stuff in my life, right? But nothing I've ever done compares to what you've had to go through. Nobody I know compares to what you've done from where you were in that hospital bed with your legs in traction, right? Screwed together with an erector set on your legs.
Yep.
For months. And then you go back and you win that contest that you were the runner up 5 years prior, right? Who does that? Who's done that? Okay. You've got a pedigree in public speaking like nobody else, right?
Thank you.
And then I know you've got this business prowess, all right, that's your business, all right? That's magic. They say, you hear people all the time say, if you can find a way to make money doing that thing you love to do, you will always be successful, all right? And I'm here to tell you, you've done that, okay? You've done that. I mean, I got called up. Somebody wanted to charge me $6,000 to join their program to become a better public speaker. I'm like, and who are you?
Yeah.
I know Luisa Montalvo.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
I hear you.
Yeah, you are the one. Okay. Remember what we did with the John Maxwell Speakers Club?
Yes.
Yeah. They don't do that anymore. They don't
really?
You gotta join John Maxwell. All right. And then that's part of their, thing, right? But that's their business. Get people to sign up for their program, or, the whole leadership thing, right? But if somebody wants to learn how to be incredible public speaker, I know nobody that's been first runner up and then come back and won it, for one, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody's got that.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you talked to Les Brown since you chauffeured him?
I have not. That's probably what I need to do, is try to get a hold of him.
Well,
that's a great idea.
Well, he's on my social media. I'm going to send this to him.
There you go. That'd be great. I would love to talk to him.
But, so here I am. You arrived, girl. All right. You arrived. All right. And you're just like, okay, you need to reap the fruit of that.
That's true. And I don't know if I'm using it as a crutch, ironically, or not, but the fact of not being able to walk, of course, I've wound up adapting to being able to do anything and everything except walking. So I don't know if it's my security blanket that I don't have to go out and do anything because I'm still working on walking. But it's just an excuse, and that's what we do to ourselves. We can have a golden egg right in front of us, and we'll make an excuse why we can't pick it up and use it, or at least get an advantage out of having it. But that's right. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Well, I call you anymore, not so much to cheer you up. I call you to get inspiration.
There you go. Okay.
It's kind of flipped on us now, right?
Right. Yeah. It has.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Little plug. I was I was contacted by this group trying to do some boxing, and it wasn't working. Trying to do boxing on the reservations, right? And but they've just been burned over the years so bad, right? Well, this tribal leader, guy knows everybody in the Native American world, called me out of the blue. He says, just tell him who you are. So I'm an ex-Navy SEAL. I used to be Roy Jones Jr.'s sparring partner. And the guy goes, oh my God, you got to talk to my partner. He puts his partner on the phone. It was Roy Jones Jr.
Oh my gosh.
We hadn't spoken since Natalie passed.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And well, this guy, he's multimillionaire in commercial construction. He said, God woke him up in the night and says, you got to save the children. And the first one he called was Roy. And Roy's like, I'm in. And so what Roy does, Roy's a promoter and a boxing manager and a promoter. So he does both, right?
Okay.
And they give proceeds for out of the pro fights that he promotes to pay for ex-paramilitary guys, like what I used to do, to rescue trafficked children.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And so, he gets people involved and they, they, whatever their business is. And he'll just put you on the phone. He puts me on the phone with the guy up in Dallas that started the Quick Go or the Quick Mart gas stations, right?
Oh, the Quick Trip?
Quick Trip, right? Yeah, gets me on the phone with this. I mean, he'll just like, and then he'll send you their name and number, just to prove that I ain't no joke. I know these guys for real, right? And they're just, but so that's what we're doing, helping with Roy. And then I go to this church down the road, and I just started this men's group, and the guy behind me is like starts talking about. I'm like, who are you? He was the CFO for Combat Sports Entertainment, which is out of California. A guy named Roy Engelbright, who was the first chief of operations for Golden Boy Promotions.
Okay.
Right.
Oh.
And now I'm hooking them up with LT Gray Promotions here in Houston.
Oh,
They're the big promoter. Most of the other promoters really contract LT Gray to do the matchmaking and actually do the shows for them.
Mhm.
They just like label it to their promotion company, right? So I'm hooking them up, and then I'm hooking up with Roy. Roy's got a bunch of contacts with casinos in Mississippi, right? But it's like out of the blue, this just happened. Crazy.
Wow. Well, good.
Right?
Good deal.
Yeah.
Hopefully something positive comes out of that.
Well, I'm like, what I want to do, and I've done it a bunch of times, figuring out, for a fighter starting off fighting 4-rounders, right? What they would need to do. I can show, if a fighter, even if they didn't become a world champion, and they're not even getting a winning record, but they're getting paid the going rate per round, I can show them how they're a millionaire in 10 years. If they save their money the right way, or if they do like I'm telling businesses to do.
Right.
Incorporate, set themselves up for 401k, the profit sharing, cash balance.